Hello and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we are going over redstone automation. The machine you see behind me is what we're going to be going over. There will be schematics in the description as always, as well as an ingredient list and hopefully all the info that you'll need to build this thing. Even if you're using the schematic, I would watch just a little bit more just so that you can get everything working properly. This is what the farm looks like. It is 9 by 7 by 5. It produces 25,000 redstone per hour and uses quite a bit of the following ingredients. It uses 17,500 andesite per hour, about 18,000 nether wart per hour, and just under 200 blaze rods per hour. Just as a preface, the amount of nether wart is quite a lot. You will need a 100 by 100 plot of land in order to farm about 18,000 nether wart per hour. So if needed, you can reduce these mixing wheels in half to get pretty much exactly half of the 25,000 redstone per hour, and then you'll only need 9,000 nether wart per hour and about 8,500 andesite per hour. This farm also requires a bit of lava. If you are only using the create mod, you can automate it with a lava farm similar to a vanilla farm, or get a big hole and fill it with lava, and if it's big enough, the pump will count it as an infinite source. To walk you through how the farm works, the three inputs, blaze rod, andesite, and nether wart, are put onto three separate belts. The blaze rods go straight into the crushing wheel to get crushed. The andesite and nether wart both go into basins to get mixed into netherack. The netherack is then put into the item vault, crushed into cinder flour, and placed on these depots that are squooshed with potions of strength, and then turned into redstone and brought back to the storage system. The potion of strength is made by nether wart combined with water to make an awkward potion. The awkward potion is then brought over to this basin, which is then mixed with a blaze powder and brought to a holding fluid tank and to the remaining spouts. The system has a smart blaze rod requester, which when you run out of blaze rods, it requests a couple of stacks and will not overflow. The last thing we need to cover are the stress units. It uses just under 16,000 stress units. One final thing that I should mention is that this farm works in create mod version 0.5.1.f. This is because the blaze burners here need to be connectable to a fluid pipe. You can check if this works in your create version if you place two fluid pipes like this and they turn into the blaze burner. If this is not possible, I recommend either updating your version or having a mechanical arm that places coal or another fuel source into these manually, because this will not work and these will not be powered. And if you're going to be building the schematic, I can walk you through how to do that now. If you're not using the schematic, you can head to the block by block tutorial on the screen now. It'll also be in the chapters of this video. So once you have the schematic in the description, you place it down. Once you place it in, it'll look something like this. These brass funnels are not necessary, but this one here is highly recommended because the amount of items released each time, exactly 4, is necessary for the farm to not overflow. The rest can just be deleted and replaced with belts of items if that is preferred. This output funnel can be removed and brought to your main storage system, or you can just place it into a drawer like I have here. You will also notice that some of these pipes are not connected properly. Just remove and replace them. And I would especially recommend this on this pipe down here. Sometimes it doesn't connect properly and you will have a water source block that spawns here. So if you replace that, you won't run into that issue. And then finally, be sure to replace these item vault blocks so it becomes a real 3x3, as well as this fluid tank here so that it becomes a 1x2. Then grab some water and place it onto these two cogwheels here. It should create an infinite source here right on top of this mechanical pump that feeds into this basin. That is all you need, and once you hook up all the required inputs, lava, nether wart, blaze rods, and andesite, the farm should work flawlessly. To start building, we're going to lay out a 7 by 9 by 5 blocks tall area, and we're going to start on the left side here, where, if we look over here, the andesite and nether wart are going to be combined to make netherack. We're going to begin by placing two shafts next to each other and connecting them with a belt. And then on the other side, we are going to come and place two more shafts like this, a third shaft connected to this one, and another shaft here. Connect these two with a belt and these two with a belt. We're then going to run a shaft all the way along here until you get to the second to last block, like so. And then we're going to skip 2 blocks, place a shaft, skip 2 blocks, and place a shaft. We're then going to connect both of these with a belt like this. And then just like this one here, we're going to place 2 shafts in a diagonal pattern like this here, and another set of them here. You should have a pattern that looks something like this. We're then going to grab a mechanical pipe, have it facing into the farm like this, and we're going to place mechanical pumps all the way along here, and make a little L shape here like this. We're then going to place 2 more pipes right next to these 2 shafts and connect it to the main line there, and do the same thing again like this. We're then going to grab blaze burners, chutes, and basins and place them along the way like this. So first, we're going to place a chute on top of this belt here, in line with the fluid pipes, then 2 blaze burners, a chute, 2 blaze burners, and a chute. On top of the blaze burners, we're going to place 2 sets of basins, and then on the end of this fluid pipe, we're going to place a blaze burner on top of the ending pipe in the very corner here, and another one on this corner here. We're then going to place 2 basins on top of those blaze burners. We're then going to grab fluid pipes, place them on top of both of these basins, place a smart fluid pipe connecting to the one on top of this basin in the center here, and then place a mechanical pump connected to the smart fluid pipe going towards this corner basin and blaze burner setup here. We're then going to come back to the front and place a shaft right in front of this chute here horizontally and have it be 3 blocks wide like this. We're then on this outside line here going to go to the second to last blaze burner, place another shaft and connect it to the original with a belt. And then on the end of this belt line, we're going to place a depot. We're going to do a similar thing on the other side, but we're going to make the shaft 2 blocks longer, place it all the way up to this end chute here, connect it with a belt. And then on the other side of this blaze burner, we're going to place a depot. This will make all the nether wart that goes onto this belt go and eventually stop on this depot that will eventually go into this basin. We can then place in all the brass funnels. You're going to want them facing into the basin. If you shift right click, it will automatically point them forward. We're going to do that for all 4 on this one side. Come over to the other side and do the same thing. And then we're going to place 1 more into this basin that goes from the depot into the basin like this. This will be the nether wart that goes into this basin. We can then place a fluid pipe on this side of the basin with a mechanical pipe, if I can, going into it facing downwards. This will be the input for the water that will eventually go into making the awkward potion. We're then going to grab our 6 mechanical mixers and place them on top of each one of the basins here. You can just place them on top of the fluid pipes here and it will just kind of travel through to the basin down below. And we can do the same thing on this corner basin here. We're then going to come over to the side here to this basin and place a fluid pipe here, another one there, and a 3rd one above it. We don't want these 2 to be connected, so make sure you right click the bottom of this middle fluid pipe here to turn it into a glass one. And then we can place a smart fluid pipe connecting to this one so that it turns 90 degrees. Place another fluid pipe, another one connected to it. And then we're going to do this weird snaky bit, which is going to bring it down and over. And we're doing this so that we can actually power this mechanical pump. So we're going to place a cogwheel in between these 2 mixers, a vertical gearbox connected to the cogwheel, and then 1 more cogwheel connected to the mechanical pump, and that will actually power it. We can then bring this around to the other side of the mechanical mixers like this, and then we're going to place a 2-high fluid tank right here, making the strength potion go all the way around here and into this fluid tank. We're then going to place 1 more mechanical pump coming out of the fluid tank heading this way that we will get to in a minute. You're then going to need to brew up a potion of strength and an awkward potion. They can, I think, be any type, but I would just do the basic ones just so that nothing weird happens, and you'll need to place them in the smart fluid pipes. So first, the strength potion goes into the one that we just made that kind of like snakes along here, and then the awkward potion is going on this smart fluid pipe that brings the awkward potion up, over, and down into this other basin. Now that we've done that, we're going to come over to the back here and place a depot next to this fluid pipe, which we will hook up to the main system later, but this will let us place in the mechanical arm that will bring the blaze powder and put it into the basin. So to do that, we're going to grab our mechanical arm and right click the depot here once, and then double right click the basin so that this is blue and this is yellow. We're then going to place it right above the smart fluid pipe connected to the mechanical mixer like this. We can then grab a cogwheel and place it next to the mechanical arm and this mechanical mixer so that all 4 of these are now connected with a cogwheel. We're then going to use 3 more cogwheels and do an L shape, something like this. And then we're going to grab andesite casing and place it on this corner cogwheel like this. This will prevent the water from spreading and spilling out into the area here. We then need to power this mechanical pump down here. So hop down into this small space, place a vertical gearbox and a cogwheel connected to this mechanical pump, and that should now be connected. We can then place a block on top of that cogwheel to again prevent water from spilling into this block here. We're then going to grab our volt block and come over to the front right of this build. We're going to place volt blocks above one block above this belt here, and it's going to be a 3x3 volt, just like this. And on this side, we're going to place a brass funnel. It doesn't matter which way it's facing, and we're going to do the same thing on top of this belt here. So this belt should go directly into the item vault. We're then going to place a shaft directly under this brass funnel that goes all the way to this block here. We're going to connect it with a belt, and then this should update so that it doesn't have a direction and all the items will just go straight into the item vault from there. We're then going to connect up these kind of diagonal belts here. So we're going to come to the vault that we just placed and place a gearbox connecting to the belt that's going straight into the item vault. And then we're going to place another gearbox, make this one vertical so that it connects to this gearbox and this belt, but not to this shaft here. We're then going to copy that same pattern and do that again here, so that this gearbox can be connected to this belt and this belt here. We're then going to place a shaft connecting to the gearbox that we just placed, just like this. We're then going to place more belts here, so shift and right click so that it doesn't place it inside the belt itself. Another one here, and a final one like this. Connect all three of these with a belt, so you should have something like this. We're then going to place another shaft connected to this one and have it go down diagonally by one block. Connect that with a belt, and then right behind it, we're going to place a gearbox right next to this gearbox here, place a shaft and another one diagonal and connect those two with a belt. We're then going to come over to the vertical gearbox that we placed a minute ago, place another vertical gearbox on top of it with a cogwheel that should connect to this mechanical pump and to the cogwheel above, and then we can place any building block next to this cogwheel again to prevent water from flowing out. We're then going to connect up the blaze rod system. So place a shaft above this middle one right next to the chute on the front of the system here. Place another shaft diagonally to this one, connect those two with a belt, and then we're going to need to squeeze in here and place a shaft that is horizontal just like this, connecting to this cogwheel here. And then we're going to place a shaft next to the vault, connect those two with a belt, and place a brass funnel pointing into the item vault in the corner like this. We're then going to place two gearboxes on this side of the belt that will connect this belt to this one to power it. Underneath this mechanical pump, next to the belt we just placed, we're going to place another gearbox here with a shaft on this side and a cogwheel here. Make sure you rotate it so that it is not connected. We're then going to place another cogwheel connected to the mechanical pump, and you should have a system kind of like this. We're then going to place a shaft coming out of the bottom cogwheel and connect these two with a mechanical belt like this. We're then going to place two more shafts just right next to each other for now, and place a brass funnel that goes from this diagonal belt onto this upper one, which we will then extend 2 blocks, and then we're going to place a depot at the end. We're then going to come over to the right-hand side here and place a shaft right next to the depot that we connected to the mechanical arm ages ago, and then we're going to run all the way over to here to this mechanical pump and place another shaft connected to the one that we just placed with a belt. And then we're going to sneak under here and place a shaft that is right below this one with a normal gearbox like this and another shaft here. We're then going to place a shaft connected to this belt that goes diagonally, the lower of the two here, and a third one on the end like this, and connect all 3 of these with a belt. Then we're going to grab Smart Chutes and place 5 of them across the way like this, setting all of their filters to redstone. On the opposite side here, we're going to place in 4 depots, starting from the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you should line up right with this belt here. Then on the sides of these depots, we're going to place in 4 brass funnels, all facing out onto this belt here, with all of their filters set to redstone. On top of these Smart Chutes, we're going to place in 5 depots like this, and connecting to this belt, we're going to place in 5 brass funnels going down onto the depots like this on this side, and then 4 onto the depots like this on the other side. We can then grab our spouts and place them on top of each of the brass funnels like this there should be a 1 block gap between the spout and depots, and the spout should be at the height of the mechanical mixers. Then we're going to place 4 more spouts on top of the remaining 4 depots on the other side, and then we can connect all of these together and connect it with this mechanical pump here that I am going to just right click with a wrench to make a glass fluid pipe, just to make sure that we actually are getting strength potions through here. We also need to connect up some of the different belts to each other. So if you hop down here right next to the fluid tank onto this belt here and place a shaft that will connect this belt to this gearbox like this. Wonderful. You should see that this is now connected. If that isn't connected, try to right click the belt again and make sure that these are connected. Then let's set off the smart on off switch for the blaze powder. It's going to be coming in from this depot here. We're going to place a threshold switch right next to this belt like this, and you should see a gray little connecty bit that's connected to the belt. Then right click on the threshold switch and lower this top one all the way down to 1% so that this is at 0%. Click OK, and then place a redstone link on top of the threshold switch. And you can really put anything in here. I'm going to put blaze rods in the bottom one and blaze powder in the red here. And then coming over to the front of the farm, we're going to need to place a storage medium. This can really be anything that you want, a chest, a vault, a barrel, a drawer, anything, and a brass funnel right next to it. Make sure you right click on the filter and say exactly 4. This is going to make sure that it doesn't overflow accidentally. And then on top of the brass funnel, we're going to place a redstone link set to receive mode with the same pattern that you set down here. So for me, blaze powder in the red, blaze rod in the blue. So set the same thing here. Even if you're not bringing in the blaze rods from just a chest that you're putting in and filling up manually, it is still good practice to have a chest here because of this 4 here. You can set this up in your main storage system if you need, but there is a chance that the redstone link is out of range, so make sure that it's within, I think it's 128 blocks. We can then set up the pretty much final bit, which is the crushing wheel system. So you're going to head over to the opposite side of this item vault and place a brass funnel coming out of the item vault. Right click on the item filter, set it to 64, exactly 64, and then place 2 crushing wheels on either side of it so that it's going to drop items straight into these crushing wheels. Then 3 blocks below the crushing wheels, we're going to just place a smooth stone block with 2 smart chutes above it. Set the filter of the second smart chute to blaze powder. Then on this side of the blaze powder smart chute that's going onto the belt, we're going to place a brass funnel that's just going to drop the blaze powder onto this belt that'll eventually come all the way down here and land on this depot. For this smart chute, we're going to place a brass funnel on the side connecting to this belt. So we're going to have items coming from this smart chute onto this belt, going into this funnel, and going onto the top belt here that is then going to be placed on all the depots to get turned into redstone. Make sure that before you turn this farm on fully, that you set the filter of this to cinder flour. Otherwise, the blaze powder could come out onto this belt and clog up some of the things. We're then going to place the final storage belt just diagonally upward like this. This can really be whatever you need. You can extend and continue this belt here all the way if you'd like. Just be sure to replace the shaft like this, or if you want to just completely follow me, you definitely can. So a diagonal belt that goes up like this, and then place whatever storage medium you'd like at the end of it with a brass funnel going into it. In order to actually rotate this belt, we're just going to need to place 2 cogwheels connecting to this blaze powder belt here that will connect these 2 together. Now all that's left to do is to actually connect up the resources that you're going to need. So andesite is going to go on the left belt here, going down like that, and nether wart is going on the inside belt here. Obviously, I'm using creative crates with just funnels, but you can use whatever your storage system is and just belt it in like this. We're then obviously going to need an infinite lava source. This can be done, as I mentioned earlier, with a big old hole. I think it's 25 by 25 by 16 or 20 by 20 by 25 or something like that. And the create mod will consider that an infinite source. Or if you're using other mods, you can pump it in straight from the nether, or you can do a standard vanilla lava source farm. After that, we should just be able to connect it to power, and this will be the first real test of everything potentially working. So I'm just going to speed this up. All the blaze burners should be connected with lava. Oh, the one thing I forgot is we need to connect this mechanical pump to this rotational power by just placing a cog like that. That is now connected. These blaze burners are all running, and everything should be making stuff except for this awkward potion thing in the back here. If we fill this with water to create an infinite source, this will start mixing awkward potions and placing it in here. This is a good time to check that all of your basins are making Netherack. For me, they are, which is great news. The Netherack is being put into this item vault, and it is not being crushed because I forgot a pretty critical step. So we're going to need to place a vertical gearbox here with another vertical gearbox on top of it. We're going to connect this crushing wheel with a vertical gearbox, a shaft, and another gearbox like this, and these should both start spinning. The Netherack should turn into cinder flour, get placed on this belt here, and go into the system like this. The other thing that I messed up in the tutorial is this gearbox here. We just need to convert it to a vertical gearbox like this. This will stop flowing for a second. If you just then place a shaft on top of this gearbox, it will then connect the two, and you should be back up and running. This will then be pushing everything the correct way, and all of these depots should be filled with cinder flour. It will then take quite a while to unback itself up, but once it does, this item vault should be empty except for under a stack of either Netherack or blaze rods at any given time. If we were to set up the blaze thing here, if I place all of these blaze rods in, blaze rods should be put into the system. Eventually, once this unbacks itself up, it will work. There is potential that when you start up this farm, if you don't have the blaze rods in immediately, the Netherack will block it up. So be sure to try to pick up the Netherack and cinder flour so that it can get into the chute here and not completely override the entire system. Just when you're starting it, make sure you monitor that this is not overflowing. Thankfully, I think we caught it just in time. But if you have too many blaze rods or too much blaze powder, it will block off this smart chute from being able to actually access the cinder flour anymore, and it'll clog itself up. If you don't have 17,000 nether wart per hour just laying around, as I mentioned earlier, you can just remove these last two basins and everything will work the same, just a little bit slower. If you want to do that, I recommend just breaking these mechanical mixers, these basins, and these blaze burners here. You can also remove these brass funnels as well, and just be sure to connect up this cogwheel with this andesite encased cogwheel, just like this. Everything will work as normal. You will use half as many items and get half as much redstone, which is still 12,500. So that is plenty. So that is the entire redstone farm. As I mentioned, this thing makes 25,000 redstone per hour, which is a crazy amount. If you need any more, you're insane. But you could also just copy this over right next to it, and it should still work. If you have any questions or you're running into any difficulties, just let me know down in the comment section, and I will respond, hopefully in a timely manner. So again, thank you all so much for watching. If you liked it, be sure to like and consider subscribing. I'll see you all next time. Peace.